Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens Ask Me Almost Anything Live. I am here every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as much as I can be. Most of the time, I'm working on our Untitled Podcaster Killer Screenwriting Step-by-Step project. But once a week, I'm going to take a full session to simply talk about some things that are on your mind, questions that you have. If you cannot ask me live, you can ask me on writingforscreens.com. You just click on the Contact Me button, which is all over the damn site, and you can contact me. If you would rather, you can contact me right here on the comments. In the comments, you can ask me anything. You can tell me what you're thinking about. You can tell me what you want to know. It goes directly from the YouTube comment to me, and I will try and answer you either there or here. Hello, Kirby Light. Your question is going to be one of the ones we are going to be taking on today. The first question is one that Kirby asked a couple of... On Friday, Kirby asked a question, and today we are doing it. The question is, the longer question was, a producer asked me for writing samples a while back, and I wasn't sure what that was. I sent 2 short films I wrote. My question is, what is a writing sample, and what constitutes a good writing sample? Excellent question, one that I'm sure a lot of people have, which is why I wanted to sort of get into it in depth. The first thing you should know about a sample script is that is a business term. It is not a creative term. It is not a writing term. It has nothing to do with scripts. It has to do with the use of the people who are reading the script. They are the ones who think of it as a sample because they are not engaged in buying or selling it. That is the actual definition of a sample script. It's a script that you are reading as a sample of the person's writing style or ability, but you're not planning to buy it or sell it. It's not appropriate for your business needs. So the only people who the term was conceived of by agents, managers, and producers and executives, the people who are buying and selling scripts. And it was a way of saying, hey, I know you can't buy this because it's a Western and you don't do Westerns, or it's a rom-com and you don't do rom-coms, or whatever it is. It's low budget and you only do big budget. But I want you to read this as a sample of how well this person writes, because you may have a rewrite or an adaptation or a staff job that needs a writer, and now you'll know how good this person is. That is the exact use of a sample script. It is a sample for a buyer to decide whether or not they want to work with you in some way other than buying that particular script. That's the only sampleness about it. Otherwise, it's simply writing. A sample script is just a script. A sample script is ideally your best script because it's going to be judged as how good is this person as a writer? How professional are they? How talented are they? What's their style? That is the purpose. Hello, 99 Precinct. So the point about a sample script is that's why they're reading it. It's not why you're writing it. I mean, it can be why you write it. You can decide, I want to write a sample script. I have done that. But that's a mindset. It does not affect the script itself. A writing sample is not a short film, because that's a short film sample. That includes a lot of things that aren't writing. If someone's looking for a writing sample, they want to see a script. Now, for instance, when the business changed a lot in the 2000s. Until then, when I started out, movie writers and TV writers were very, very different. You didn't cross over that line, very rarely. And so I had been working in features from the 90s through the 2010s. And at a certain point, I recognized that TV had changed. It had gotten better. And what's more, they liked feature writers. But I did not have a sample of a television pilot script. And they are different because a pilot script, as we're seeing when I'm writing it, is going to be structured to set up and to continue with things that are part of a larger story than the script itself. A feature is much more compressed and condensed. As a result, I thought, I want to show people that I know how to write for TV. The shape of scenes is very often different. And certainly the way that characters are discovered and developed are different. So I said, I'm going to write a sample script. I had, and I'm going to put this on the website. I had heard on NPR radio an interview with a guy who had written a book about the first Indy 500 race, which was at the turn of the 20th century. It was in 1905, I think, maybe 1909. Anyway, the guy who built the Indy 500 racetrack and started this race was insane. And racing at the time was insane. It was like rollerball. It was just deadly gladiatorial driving. I found this fascinating. It was kind of too big to be a feature. The story was too sweeping and complex, and it was the perfect idea for a TV series. So because I was in a really great position in that I had cool agents and managers who could contact the agent of the book writer, and I had the money from writing for Hollywood to actually pay for the option. I actually optioned the book, and then I wrote the pilot script of an intended series about this man and his world and the world of early auto racing. So I wrote this pilot. I wrote it on spec, as they say, on my own, simply as an attempt to show someone I know how to handle an ensemble story. I know how to set up storylines. I know how to write scenes. I just want them to see how good I am at that. So it was just a sample script. It was almost unmakeable because it was really expensive. So in that case, I actually I knew I was writing a sample script. I knew that the odds were no one could take it on because it was incredibly expensive. But the vision that I was able to capture in my words was pretty snazzy, and I wanted to kind of show that off because I knew I was good at that. So I did a sample pilot. I wrote a pilot which was like, I don't think this can possibly sell, but I need to show people I know how to do this thing. And that is the other meaning of a sample script, is if you want to write horror scripts, you need to write a horror script to show people you can do it, to show them how you do it. If you have never written a horror script, but you've written other kinds of scripts, you may consider writing a sample horror script. But truthfully, if you're writing a sample horror script, you're mostly just writing a script. You're just saying, I want to try this kind of script. I'm going to write it. The other thing you should know about sample scripts is that very few people at this point in the business can read a sample script. They are just too busy. I have repeatedly been told that people can't read scripts simply to see that you're good enough to work with them or to take on a job. It used to be different. In the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, people often, because they were looking for more assignment writers. Assignment writers are people who are being hired to do a rewrite or an adaptation job of something that this company already owns. And so they take a script and they give it to someone to do a draft of it. When you're doing that, you need a sample script. But the truth is, my sample scripts were just scripts, just things I had written. That's what a sample script really is, your best script. The other use of sample script, which is completely outmoded now, is for a long time in television, if you wanted to get a job working on Law and Order or Cheers, you would write a sample script. It's like, I'm going to write a Cheers script. I don't have the right to write a cheer script. No one will buy my cheer script. They do their own scripts. But I need to show them that I can write in their style, in their voice. So every season, TV writers would write a sample script of some show they wanted to get on, or a type of show they wanted to show that they could do it. That never happens now. Don't waste your time doing that. People do not want to see those. They want to see original writing from someone who is going to join their staff. I don't think I've ever heard in the past 5 years of anyone writing, I'm going to write a Law and Order to get a job on Law and Order. You write a good pilot of your own idea and show them how you know how to write. That said, I should point out, I am not always the best person to talk business with. I am trying not to be a screenwriting business advisor, because there's a lot of people who do that better than I do. I have often in my career made bad business choices. I think the business is stupid often. I think it's glorious and glamorous, but it's messed up. And my attitude towards the business is very often like a soldier going to war. I have to get through it because I want democracy to flourish, but I swear to God, it's just hell out there. And the best thing that I know to do for business is to be the best at the job. That's all I really know for business. I mean, I certainly could tell you a lot of details about how things are done, but my advice is always going to be, do you as well as you can do it. Be as good at the job of writing, which includes being talented and being practical and being skilled. And that's really what I'm going to say you should do in almost any business circumstance. Certainly, as far as sample scripts, the answer is really write your best script. That's a sample that if somebody says, can I see a sample of your writing? You say, I love this script I wrote. Here it is. That is what you want to do. Hello, Dawn. And whoever else is on, lurking, it's good to see you all. The question was, what is a sample script or a writing sample? And the answer is basically it's a script. It's a script that shows you at your best, and you should be doing that. One of the things that I wanted to say about this is the fact that people sometimes want sample scripts is simply the best reason that I can think of for you to just write more scripts. Write what you want to write. Write, constantly be writing. Always be writing. ABW. That is the name of the game. If you are going to figure out what's the best thing for my career, the best thing for your career is always write a new script. Always. Because whatever you learned from writing the last one, or whatever you didn't do the last time, try and do that better. Try and expand your skills. Try and give yourself a challenge in a new script to do something that you didn't do the last time. That is the best writing advice, business writing advice I can come up with. What do they want from you? More, better scripts. That's the game. So that's the first part of that. Then Kirby had I hope that was useful, Kirby. The basic answer is a sample script is a script that you use as a sample, and it should therefore be as good as you can make it. The other question you asked was, when called in for a meet and greet with producers, managers, etc., what are good things to say and do or not do in the meeting? Basically, what should you say and do or not do in a general meeting? And this is interesting because, first of all, a lot of people don't know what a general meeting is, also called a meet and greet. Meet and greets, great. Oh, look, that was useful. I get a gold star. Okay, so a meet and greet is sort of the sample script of meetings. It is a meeting in which they are not trying to interview you for a job or anything. They are simply saying, we read your writing, or you're somebody's nephew and we need to meet with you, whatever it is. we are going to have a meeting with you, which is simply a getting to know you meeting. And that's called a meet and greet or a general meeting. And there's a ritual to it. If I were you, I would Google General Meetings Hollywood and see, you're going to find tons of blog posts and articles and interviews and podcasts where people in great detail theorize and strategize about general meetings. And that's cool. That is a good thing. You should research all this stuff. Anything you're asking me, you should also be asking your search engine, because I am not the only one with good information. I got really good information, but I'm not the only voice. And you will do very well to get a lot of different ideas and then sort them and see them what works for you. So what happens at a meet and greet? What happens in a general meeting? The formalities are basically, you come in, they generally will talk a little bit about whatever it is of yours they know about you, that they've read about you, or they, for whatever reason, they're meeting with you. Then they almost always, sometimes you have to remind them to do this, but you should ask them, tell me about your company. Even though it might be, it might be Warner Brothers or something, but you're still going to be talking to somebody in a specific office, and they're going to have a specific mandate. They're going to have a territory. They're going to be, we're doing, character-driven, indie films, or we're doing action films with animals as heroes. Whatever it is, they are going to have a plan for the moment, and it's really good to get them to tell you about it. They have a spiel that they will knock off, somewhat bored manner. But they will then ask you, what are you working on? So one of the things that you should be prepared to answer is, in a very brief one-liner summary, what is it that you are, in theory, about to write or currently writing? Now, be careful. Do not talk about something like this if you are a year out. If you are thinking about writing something, but you haven't really started it, and you say, oh, I'm writing about this, very often they're going to say, that sounds interesting, I'd like to read that. A year later, they might not even work there. So tell them, don't tell them of things that are almost done or actually are done, that you say, I'm working on this, and then you wait a couple weeks and then you say, hey, it's done. The answer is they are looking for something that they can read right away or soon. So that is something you should do and not do. Do not tell them about something that you want to do way in the future, unless it gets sort of like a weird sort of spacey conversation where they're like, what are your ambitions for life? But basically, think about what you are there to accomplish. Why are you in this meeting? If you have another script that they haven't heard about, tell them about it briefly. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to have short versions, short log line hooky versions of anything you talk about. It doesn't have to be, explaining everything about it. It's almost always the beginning of the story and almost never the end of the story. But you usually talk about the genre that it's in. You establish who the main character or type of main character it is and what their main problem is. And then there's some form of twist. That's sort of the log line concept. And the concept is like, it's a murder mystery. It's a thriller about a race car driver with amnesia, and he's been hired to find a sunken treasure, and the twist is it's his dad who hired him. Something like that. Whatever it is, or that he doesn't really have amnesia. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's sort of like genre, character, plot hook, thing that makes it unusual. That's the form that you want to drop a story on people with. The other thing I would say is be prepared for the curveball question. I don't know what it's going to be, but these people are sitting in their office all day long, and people like you are shuffling in and out every 20 minutes. And I think sometimes they just have like, what are you working on? Where do you come from? Whatever. But then now and then they'll say something really weird, and just be ready for it. Be ready to just improvise, to answer, to think about the value of your answer, because they'll say something like, what, where, it's sort of like some kind of dating question, like, well, where would you go if you had to move out of LA? Or so, just like, it's like, okay, whatever, sure, answer the question. Be prepared. They also might say, like, what do you think about, having everything be a musical? Say, just try to be honest about that. The main thing that I would say about any meeting is listen. Actually listen to them. Don't just wait for you to drop your talking points. Actually listen, think about what they're saying, and think about the value of your reply, and then reply. Don't beg. Don't beg for a job. Don't tell them how much you need it. That is really not a good idea. Nobody wants to hire you if you need a job. That's all I can tell you. They want to think that they are getting something that's good for them. They are not in the meeting to do something for you. They are looking for whether you can bring them something. Don't give them too much. If they say, what are you working on? Mention 1, maybe 2 things. Don't mention 7. Don't tell them about 7. Don't make it too personal. A little bit of personality is a fine thing, but honestly, they'll get uncomfortable. Don't oversell the personal value of this. You are there for professional purposes. Be professional. This is not about you. It's about what you can write that they can sell. That is the purpose of every meeting. It's also very important that you know how to behave, that you do not go on too long, that you do not say embarrassing things, just that kind of thing. And by embarrassing, I mean just like, don't talk about bodily functions without being invited to. I believe you should mostly be honest. This is where I may be doing bad business advice and why I'm saying you should check other things. But my feeling is there isn't really a value to selling something that you can't deliver. From what I understand, a lot of business advice and agents and managers and teachers who are working on the business end, they're all about like, be what they want. You may not be what they want. And if you are not, don't tell them you are. Be honestly who you are. Try to be confident and enjoy the stuff, the process, the work, the content. That's really what you're there for. And whatever you do, don't try and impress them. Oh, I once won this film festival award, and so therefore you ought to hire me. You're not going to impress them. You might impress them accidentally, but don't come in there thinking, I have to knock their socks off. Okay. While we are here, okay, we've got a couple of other questions that I will get to. Rhett Kritzon is saying that I'm awesome, which is always good to hear. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Johnson says, Boa notte, which I'm guessing is you are from South America, but you may be from, I don't know where you're from. Let me know if you get a chance, Johnson, and what language that is. But good evening to you too. That's because I know enough to recognize the form of noate, must be night. I am actually always stunned, by the way. I can't believe that there are so many international viewers and watchers and students here. And I'm always just so grateful to you for working with my English, because I don't know any other languages. It was really, really hard for me to get good at English. and that's the best I can do. And I am stunned that any of you can do 2 languages. I bow to you. That's really amazing, and I appreciate it. Okay, cool. So let us get on. Oh, by the way, I want to talk about a place to get some good good advice. There's a podcast called The Screenwriting Life. And I strongly recommend it, especially in terms, it's what it says it is. It's about the life of being a writer, about the experience of trying to work in the business. The people who are doing it are they're really in the business. They work for Marvel and Pixar, and they know all the great people, and they've had great experiences. They're good people. They are not selling you anything. They are literally there to share the writing experience and try and be helpful. I strongly recommend it, especially because it's much more about the business and the process of being a writer than I'm getting into. Hello, Wolf. And thank you, Kirby. Okay, let's get on to the next question, which was in my bunch of questions I had from last week, which is OVG asked this: how do you get better at self-criticism and revising the first draft? OVG said the hardest thing for him or her or them is to go into their own first draft and criticize their own writing. And that is hard. That takes time. The first thing I would say is don't expect to get good at any of this right away. The only way that you get really good at writing is by writing a bunch of things, not just one script. You really can't get good at writing. You can be talented, you can be good, but you will not really be a good writer, and certainly not prepared for the profession after one script. Maybe 5, maybe 3, I don't know. Are there people who have gotten breakthroughs on their first script? Yeah. That's like saying, are there people who won the lottery? Sure, there are absolutely people who have done that, and some of them have crashed and burned after that. Some of them have been amazing. But you should remember that most of them, it wasn't really their first script. Steven Soderbergh, Quentin Tarantino. I don't know about Kevin Smith. I believe he was working on scripts before Clerks. But most of the people who break through on their first script, Robert Rodriguez, it wasn't their first script. It wasn't like they were starting from zero. You should not expect to be good at this after one. So that is the first thing I would say about learning how to criticize yourself. It's going to take time. You're going to have to sort of go through it a few times. The next thing I would say is take time away. Set it aside and do something new. And by that, I mean 2 things. One, set it aside. It's really always good to set everything aside. Just like if you leave a place and you come back later, it looks different. It just does. Our perceptions change in the context of our moment. Day to day, one of the best ways that a visual artist can look at their own work is to hold it up to a mirror. It changes the perspective. Your brain sees it differently. That is very true of writing. There's just no mirror you can hold it up to. I personally often, and I know this is not the greatest thing in the world environmentally, I print it out. I find that it's very different reading on a screen than reading on a page. I also think that it's really good sometimes just like change the font. I know that sounds crazy, but do whatever you can to short circuit your familiarity with your own work. But especially, as I said, set it aside and do something new. That's really the key. If you just set it aside and go bake cookies and do errands and then you come back to it, you haven't really rinsed your brain of the feelings and the engagement that you had when you first wrote it. The only thing that I know that truly gives you perspective on your own work is working on a different project. And then when you come back to it, you see it's really freaky how different your own work looks. So I strongly advise working on something new, which also goes to the other point about sample scripts. Writing more scripts, writing new projects, doing something new is always a good idea. Now, the other thing I want to talk about briefly, and this is a rant, there is no such thing as objective in writing. you are not looking to be objective. You are simply looking to not be stuck in a rut. When people talk about how writers can't be objective about their own writing, nobody can be objective about writing. There's no such thing as objective about writing. What is objective? I'm going to measure the temperature of this script and then I will know exactly how good it is. That's just dumb. There is no objective. And anyone who says that, be a little alert to the fact that they think there's some perfect rule that you're supposed to hit. That's not true. It is true that you have to get out of your own perspective, which is very different from saying that there's an objective right or wrong. There is nothing objective about it. The only thing you're trying to do is experience it as someone who's not you would experience it, which is really hard to get because you know everything about it. You know how you made it. And so one of the things that you want to do is just simply try and shake yourself up so that when you look at it, you'll just see things differently, and then you'll be able to criticize it. Just that simple. You'll suddenly say, I see that that's too long, or I see that that's too busy, or whatever. The other thing I want to get into about this question of self-criticism is it kind of depends, the solution to getting better at self-criticism depends on what's your weakness. Because some people are going to look at everything they write and think it's crap. That's a specific problem. The answer is it's not. It's probably not. I don't know for sure. It could be that you are that rare person who really, really, really just writes crap all the time. I've never actually seen such a thing. I've seen people who don't try hard enough. I've seen people who have a lot to learn, but I've never actually seen someone who's just like completely got nothing going for them. But you could have a long way to go. But the main thing is, even then, it's not just all bad. There's something good in there. And so if you're the sort of person who can't criticize because everything looks terrible, the first thing you got to do is work on that psychologically. Try and figure out whose negative voice you're channeling. Try to figure out what fear it is that you're trying to ward off by, attacking yourself before they do. There's a lot of therapy needed to be a writer. It's just do it professionally, do it personally, do it with self-help books. There's a ton of really valuable psychological stuff out there on the internet. People are writing stuff that's like, if you are overly self-critical, try these exercises. On the other hand, your problem may not be that you think it's all crap. Your problem may be you think everything you do is perfect, and that's why you can't criticize it. Totally different problem. Needs a different solution. Very often, I will simply like my own stuff too much. It's a real problem. It's a good thing. I love what I write, but sometimes when somebody will say this is not working for us, I will say, but it's good, it's fun, it's perfect, it's terrific. And that's a problem. It sort of depends on how much you care about whether or not other people like what you like. And also depends on whether or not you are in a professional situation, because in a professional situation, you actually have to listen to other people. So OVG, if you are out there or next time you see this, what exactly is wrong when you try to criticize yourself? What's the hard part? It could be that you only work on impulse. In other words, you just sort of get into the flow and the mood and then it all comes out. And then I would say try to work on the process. Try to learn. I've got some section of my video lessons about process. One called Make It a Ritual, I believe. Where do I have that here? No, I don't. But learning to do the work in a professional manner, in a artisan manner, not in an inspiration-only manner, is probably going to help with the self-criticism. And so just practicing that would be good. And if you just can't think at all, if you just look at it and you blank out, that's some kind of fear writer's block thing. And I'm going to get into that on some other videos. But the answer is, first of all, just recognize that it has nothing to do with the writing. That has to do with you, with your feelings, with your fears. And the best thing I can say is, if you are having trouble criticizing your own work, figure out what the problem is, because you have to attend to the problem you have. There isn't a one-size-fits-all. If your problem is self-loathing, that's very different than your problem is everything I do is perfect. And by the way, all of us can have different times of each of these. But attend to the problem that you have, and attend to it with specific tasks, things to do. Don't try and change who you are. Don't try and change everything around you. Just try and figure out a writing task. Can I make this one scene shorter or longer or funnier or whatever it is that you think it isn't good enough about? Just work incrementally a little bit on making each piece of the puzzle a little better. Then when you look back at the big picture, it'll start to work. And one of the main things that you can do is remember the outline. The outline really helps. It's a good place to ask yourself questions and write answers, to think about, okay, this one scene, it's not working. It's falling flat. It's too hyper, whatever it is. I don't know what the problem is per moment, but I know that you need to start to think kind of mechanically, kind of just like, well, what's shorter, what's longer, what's funnier, what's, scarier. That's sort of how you do it. Break it into small steps and ask questions. Really, really, this is important. Watch this video. The best thing you can do is simply ask questions. That's how you don't have to criticize, you don't have to judge. Judging is such a crappy thing in so many ways. Questions, that's productive. So, that is the main thing. And the other thing you should remember is it's probably not gonna feel good all the time, and certainly not at the beginning. You may have to do things despite your feelings. You may have to do things even though you think like, oh, this is terrible. Make it better even though it's terrible, even though it doesn't feel great. I don't know your specific problem, OVG. I'd be happy to talk about it more specifically if I knew that. But overall, we criticize ourselves best when we take ourselves out of it and you criticize the piece of work. Just, is this script long enough? Is this script typed properly? Is this script formatted well? Have I thought about my characters? Ask those questions. I cannot get serious enough about how much you want to think in terms of questions, because that takes away a lot of fear. Okay, so let us look at some of the questions that have come at me since then. Rhett says, do you use beta readers? By which I assume you mean sort of people who are not the final audience, but you want to have them read and give you notes or thoughts or responses. The answer is, I'm, though, a bad example. I tend to work on something until I like it. That's sort of how I operate. It's like, I'm not going to show this to anybody until I like it. And by the time I like it, I don't really need to hear what anyone else thinks. I mean, I'm interested. I definitely do show my work to them, but I don't show it to them until I like it. And then I do have to struggle with the fact that there'll be people who think what I like isn't working. And I have to decide, is that because our taste is different, or their expectations or needs are different, or have I really failed to do what I'm setting out to do? Tough call. I think beta readers, or having people read your stuff, is incredibly valuable. And over time, I find I get a lot out of people's readings. I just tend to do it after the beta phase. I don't know enough about tech to know what comes after beta, but that's how I handle beta readers. I'm at level 0 as a screenwriter. I'm in LA. I don't know anyone. My goals. I don't know anyone. My goals are agent, manager, job, rewrite assignment writer. Where do I go from here? I'll tell you where you're going to go, and you're not going to like it. You go to sit down and you write stuff, and you don't worry about the rest of that. You don't worry about agents and managers and jobs. You can apply for writer's assistant jobs. It's a cool thing. It's a cool experience. Don't kid yourself. A writer's assistant is making copies and typing things for other people and being a grunt. And you get to watch writers, but you won't get it better as a writer. I mean, you will a little because of the experience of understanding how they work. But your writing has to come first. And when you're a writer's assistant, you don't get any time for any of that. So the answer is, if you are at level 0, the first thing you need to do is write scripts. Write scripts, submit them to contests and festivals, and show them to people, and join a writer's group if you're inclined to do that, or just show it to other people. Show it to people who are different from each other. Some of them should be actors. They're going to judge a script differently. No one person judges correctly. There is no right judgment on a script. So you need to show it to a lot of people and find out, everybody's liking that scene, but what's going to happen is, if you are at all good, different people will like different things, because that is the truth of life. Not everybody likes Christopher Nolan. Not everybody likes Wes Anderson. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means not everybody likes everything. And not everything you write is going to be liked by everyone. So the most important thing is to write a lot of stuff and show it to a lot of people a lot of ways. That is how you become a writer. If you are doing that, then at whatever opportunity you get, where you meet someone who might read your script, and that's so hard. You have a really good script. You need to have really good scripts before anything else in the business. And as I said before, very few people have very good scripts the first 2 or 3 times. I didn't, and I'm really talented, and I'm really hardworking, and I've been doing this since I was 11 years old. And I'm telling you, my scripts weren't good until I was in my mid-20s, and I had written like 8 of them. You don't get that good that fast. Okay. Alrighty. And then we have a question about copyright. What's it based on and inspired by? And must you credit whom inspired you? No, no, definitely not. The inspired by is a legally fancy way of avoiding responsibility when you have changed your story so much from the factual, whatever it was from, that it's unrecognizable. And so you say inspired by. Here's the deal with copyright. And by the way, Kirby, I do not mean to be discouraging. I like this concept that it's within your hands to do it. You don't have to wait for anyone. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. No one can stop you from working on your writing. And the most valuable thing to them is going to be that you work on your writing. They want you to do that. They don't want you to be trying to please them. They want you to be trying to be good. Okay, so let's talk about copyright, because this is tricky. You should not be doing anything based on anything that is copyright, because you don't have the right to do it. That's what copyright is all about. And it's serious. You cannot adapt or base your work on someone else's copyrighted work without their permission and a contract, a legal contract that says this is cool. So therefore, if you are basing your work on something that is not copyright, which means it is old enough to have fallen out of copyright, then you don't have to say anything about it. I mean, you can say based on this if you want to, because you think it's interesting, but the truth is, if you're being inspired by someone else's work, cool. If you are writing a script based on someone else's work, and you are taking their material and adapting it, translating it for the screen, don't do that unless you have the rights, and you won't get them. I mean, it was a year of brutal negotiation to get the rights to that auto racing book, because all the people involved in the negotiation are thinking, Hollywood, movies, scripts, Hollywood. Hollywood equals money. So therefore, they're going to say to you, we want $20,000 for the rights to this short story. And that's cheap, by the way. And you're going to say, but I don't have $20,000 and I shouldn't spend it anyway on that. And they're going to say, well, we can't give it to you, even if you are the most inspired writer in the world, because what if someone with $20,000 comes along while you've got the rights? We'll be doing bad business. And their job is the business. Remember, they're the manager, the agent. They're not the literary muse of this writer. They're the person whose job it is to get them money. So they will not give you the rights. So the answer is, ideally, if you are being inspired by someone else's work, you are making a new original piece that is like it. Like if I was inspired by Citizen Kane, I might be inspired by the form, the idea of an inquest into a character. And that's not copyright. That's not that you can't own an idea. You can't copyright a concept. If I was inspired by Lord of the Rings to create a world, he doesn't own worlds. He just owns that one. You can't do hobbits. You can do dolphin people who spend half their time on Earth and half the time underwater. You can make your own. And that's inspired by. The actual credit inspired by means we bought this book, but we've changed it so much that we can't even say based on, because you're not going to find anything from the book in the script. Is that helping? I hope that that's clear. Copyright is a serious thing. It can kill a project. If you write something based on a real person, living person, or based on a work of art by another person or nonfiction by another person that is copyrighted, no one will ever buy it or make it because they'll get sued. Also music. Don't use music from other things in your script. Don't say, and now, Revolution Number 9 by the Beatles is played. First of all, don't put that in the script anyway. But if you were, Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen is playing on the bar radio. Well, first of all, who cares? That's not important. You just want to say rock music. But second of all, you don't have the right to do that. And in fact, Quentin Tarantino told a story about Reservoir Dogs in which he wrote a specific sequence in which a man tortures another man to a specific piece of music. And he needed that piece of music, and he wrote it into the script. And as a result, the people who owned that piece of music said, wow, they really need this. We can jack up the price. And so Tarantino advised, even if you have a song in mind, don't put it in the script. All you're doing is asking the lawyers to be more difficult. And this is all about lawyers, this copyright stuff. Dawn says, thumbs up to writers group, and cool. I'm not a screenwriter. I want to say your advice has been helpful for the story part of a little video game I'm developing. Yes, as far as I'm concerned, video games are already a valid equivalent storytelling mode to movies, TV, and comics and graphic novels. They're all, and novels and plays, they're all storytelling forms. And honestly, most of the same stuff, I believe, you use in any of them. The details of forming a game story and a screen story may be different, but that's where you learn that's where you work in the specifics of your art. Just like a romantic comedy and a gangster film will be different. But the character, the story, the emotional byplay of drama and dialogue, that's all stuff that I think always shows up in all of these forms. Okay, good. Yes, it is difficult. It is difficult. It is near impossible. Remember, you are talking about a very, very glamorous business. The main center of our culture for the past 100 years has been TV and movies. And more people are watching those than are reading books or anything else. And therefore, everyone thinks in that language. And therefore, plus, it's where all the money is. So for every job in the industry, there are thousands of people trying to get those jobs. And all you can do is be honest with yourself about that. It is going to be a matter of luck and stamina and keeping your head on and being understanding the appropriateness of the desire that you have. If you want to be a PA, you should know being a PA is a killing job. It's so hard. It is. You're not going to write while you're a PA. Nobody does. When you're a PA, you just kill yourself for a while to get some money. You don't really get that much experience about the making of the film. You get an experience of the production. But being a PA will not teach you anything about writing or even directing, honestly. They keep you far away from that stuff. So the answer is yes, it is hard. I would put all my effort into having a sustainable, comfortable life anywhere. Does not have to be in LA at this point. To write more stuff. When you are applying for jobs and stuff, and you're really, yes, you do actually need to be in LA. And so if you can survive here, but it's really expensive here. So therefore, figure out a way to survive, but figure it's going to be a long time. I was in New York, likewise expensive and further from the business. I was working office jobs for 12 years. And that was with an agent. That was with talent and a flow of original scripts. 12 years before I was making any money. Javier Bonilla says, what if you mentioned the brand of a suitcase? Yeah, you can mention brands. I mean, I think that's okay. Down the line, if they go into production, they may need to change it. So don't make it like that's a plot point that can't change. But yeah, throw in brand names. Yes, that will come up later, but there's nothing wrong with it. Copyright question was answered perfectly. Yay, me! See on fire for and not get sued. Well, you don't get sued for ripping off the theme or the style or the artistic integrity content of anything. Unless it is a specific thing that no one else has ever done, you can take it. He took the structure of Reservoir Dogs was also based on a movie called The Killing by Kubrick, which was all about the shifting of time. There are tons of works that shift time. So nobody owns the copyright on telling a gangster story in broken up time. So you can take that stuff. What you can't do is take a character name or an exact hunk of dialogue from them. You can't, you could probably get away with almost anything else. I actually once read a book, a guy's job, he was a scholar of Sherlock Holmes, but his job was in Hollywood to defend against copyright lawsuits by showing the common basis for some invented thing. In other words, if somebody said, Tarantino stole this, you could say, well, but also this did it, and this did it, and this did it, and therefore you have no case. So, interesting. Okay. Burgundy asked me a question before, and I lost it. It was way up here. Hang on, sorry. I am scrolling up. Here we are. I was wondering if you'd give us advice on writing for children. How to find the balance between simple and simplistic. This is a great question. Writing for children is a field unto itself. Excuse me, a field unto itself. God, I've been talking for an hour. Okay, so we are going to tropes. Yes, indeed, tropes are what you can't copyright. The world of children's entertainment is very specific. There are a lot of rules as far as what you can and can't do. But it's growing and expanding right now. It's a very complex thing. How do you find the balance between simple and simplistic, I would say simple. Simple is always accessible. It's always good. There's nothing wrong with simple. Simplistic is just, I guess, superficially simple. That's the only way I can think of it. It's like if it's simple because you've simply borrowed some simple thing that other people have been successful with, and that's your. But honestly, simple's always going to be good. Simple's good for kids, but simple's actually not required for kids anymore. If you look at Pixar and most kids' TV shows and stuff, they're complex, they're complicated. The simplicity comes from the I don't know. That's an interesting question. Is it even more simple than regular stuff? I don't know. I would say the best way to learn about writing for children is to plunge into the stuff that is out there now, because it's good. There's so much good stuff. Study, especially Pixar. Pixar also, the cool thing about Pixar is Pixar loves to talk about themselves. So there are so many TED Talks and interviews with the people who work at Pixar directors and writers and artists. Read those interviews. They are amazing. These people think a lot about what they are doing, and it is a beautiful thing. They are so good at what they do, and they have spent a lot of time theorizing how to tell a story, and they're happy to talk about it. So all I can say is look, go on the internet and search for Pixar writing, writing style, Pixar writing secrets. You're going to find a bunch of people who are interpreting Pixar. Don't listen to them. I mean, that's fine. But you want to find people who actually worked at Pixar. You can listen to them. But also just watch a lot and take art apart. Break down how they do what they do. And to a certain extent, like we were talking about, you copy that. You absorb the language by exposing yourself to it and practicing it. It's the only way I know to be a good artist, is to internalize the genre that you're working in, to have spent so much time not just studying it, but practicing it. You're not gonna get it all at once, but try it, and try it out on kids. That's the best thing. Try it out on the audience for whom it is you are working. There's a lot of stuff on how to work in they call it sometimes the family market, but writing for kids, I guarantee you, I haven't done it, but I'm sure if you go on Amazon, you will find 30 or 40 books at least how to. Try to take as many as you can out of the library. Many of them may be a waste of time, but it'll help. But the main way you learn to do anything, but especially write for kids, do it. Write for kids. Show it to some kids. Get some kids. Go to a neighborhood school or something and ask the teacher if you can have somebody read your stuff and get the responses. That's the best thing I can think of as far as kids go. The kids stuff, there are certain, you don't want to have people getting beheaded. But other than that, the truth of characters is in fact pretty simple, at least in the way I work. And I actually find I learn a lot. When my son is older now, but when he was growing up, I spent a lot of time watching stuff with him that I never would have watched. Fairly Odd Parents or stuff. And I'm amazed at the construction of the work and the quality of storytelling that can be in kids stuff. Anyway. All right, I'm going to take a couple more and then we got to stop because I'm tired. Have you ever watched any of Brandon Sanderson's teaching videos or listened to a podcast called Writing Excuses? One of the best teaching resources I found online. No, I've never heard of Brandon Sanderson, but that's partly because it's been 25 years or so since I've been a professional, so I tend not to do that much. I mean, when I started doing teaching, I kind of looked at what other people were doing, but I haven't really spent that much time checking out all the new teachers. I'm positive that there's some really good ones out there. And so those of you who are looking for something, that's a good recommendation. Brandon Sanderson's teaching videos and podcast Writing Excuses. Cool. Any favorite novelists? Offhand, I would. I likewise. I've been writing scripts for a long time, and so I've sort of put myself on a novels diet. I do not read that many novels since I got heavily into screenwriting, because it makes me just want to write novels, and I can't do that. I'm going to do that soon. But Graham Greene, the British writer, and John Updike was one of my favorites. Salinger, I think, is great. Yeah, I'm blanking offhand. Hold on, let me just look over here. Oh, well. Dickens, Dostoevsky. I'm a big fan of Thomas Wolfe. Not everyone can take him, but he's great. Virginia Woolf, also phenomenal. The Mars Room. I just read The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. Really good. And I can't remember the author's name now. It's like called The Goon Squad, I think. It's phenomenal. Excellent novel. Well, hopefully down the line I'll get into that stuff. When is the first draft finished, ready to share with a handful of readers? When you cannot find anything in it that you don't want to fix. This is one of my favorite quotes. I love this one. When everything that you need to fix, you can't fix yet. That just says it all. Nothing is ever done in this field, but when you can go through it page by page and say, yeah, this is pretty much what I want it to be, then it's ready. It's done. Don't get precious about it. Don't worry that it's not as done as it's going to be. Just have it be done to where there isn't something that when you notice it, you go, ooh, that's not right. That's what you don't want. That's why I tend to do it in the colors in the outline, so that I just like, oh, there's still stuff that's in the wrong color here. Yeah, it's finished when you can read through it from beginning to end and not have anything that you make a note, fix that. Not even something like, it could be like, oh, that isn't as good as I'd like, but I can't think of how to fix it. Then it's done. Okay, oh good, I'm glad that helped you. Yes, I would definitely say anyone who's trying to write scripts, read scripts. Read scripts. Oh, actually, William Goldman, Marathon Man is a phenomenal, his books, they're poppy, but as a screenwriter, he's such a hero of mine. Guys, it's been an hour. I'm going to sign off. You have been delightful. This has been fun. Clearly, it's a popular thing. I will be doing more of them. I'm going to try and do them every Wednesday, I think. I'm going to try. Yes. Graham Greene definitely reminded... yes, Graham Greene is a god among writers. He is so damn good. End of the Affair is particularly stunningly, heartbreakingly great. But almost everything he wrote is just amazing. Anyway, guys and gals, humans, people, without gender affiliation, I'm really glad to have spent some time with you, and I will see you tomorrow.